I think that, the 49ers have been very clear that they are big Brock Purdy fans, and they want to bring him back. But they also want to bring him back at a price that enables them to do the business that they believe that they need to do. And the two sides have been close. And I think that, Brock Purdy probably sees these quarterback contracts getting done and, sees himself as next in line on these deals for taking the next big step.
So Adam also walked us through why, even though the Niners love Brock Purdy, why financially it may not make all the sense in the world for them to pay him right now.
Brock Purdy's under contract this year for $5.1 million. And then next year, the 49ers can tag him for $41 million. And then the year after, they can tag him again for $51 million. So if my math is correct, the 49ers technically control Brock Purdy's rights for the next 3 years and $97.1 million, roughly. 397.1. If you're the 49ers, why are you going to go pay Brock Purdy some crazy number when you control his rights like that?
So the San Francisco 49ers, if they had the opportunity right now to guarantee 3 years, $97.1 million, and they had to guarantee every cent of it, they would probably make that deal in about 2 seconds.
They would have done that yesterday.
They would have done that so quickly. That's such an amazing deal for them. For him, obviously, 97.1 is not even that far away from what he's probably wants on a per-year basis, right? Should he consider holding out if they don't meet his number? This is a man that does not have set-for-life money. This is a man that is probably, quote-unquote, rich, but not filthy rich. If he walked away from football today, he'd probably have to get a job at some point. Should he consider holding out? Not that there's anything wrong with having a job, but I'm saying we don't anticipate when guys retire at the quarterback position at the highest level that they need to work.
Guys who've been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, they don't need to. They want to, right? Should he consider holding out if they don't meet his number?
Yeah, I definitely think he should consider it because the way Adam outlined it, that they control him for 3 years, $97.1 million, he's looking at a scenario where the pieces around him may not be as strong, and he doesn't know what the team success is going to look like moving forward. He can't forecast that. So 2 years ago, he plays amazing, takes the team to the Super Bowl. Last year, disappointing year for the 49ers, 6-11, fourth in the NFC West. He's watching pieces of the team he went to the Super Bowl with get peeled off left and right. And if I'm Brock Purdy, I know that my leverage is that I took a team to a Super Bowl. And the further away we get from that, if the success is not the same, I'm losing power position. So right now feels like the time to strike if you're him. Strike while the iron is hot. Why would you want to potentially put yourself in a situation where you don't have as much leverage and you can't command as much money?
I agree with everything that you just said, which is why I think the 49ers are going to get buried with this contract. This is going to get bad for them. They've got themselves in a trick box. There's no way out because they've already committed to paying Brock Purdy, which is why they moved on from all of those players this offseason, right? It's why they traded away Deebo Samuel. It's why they cut Javon Hargrave. It's why they let Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga walk in free agency. Charvarius Ward walk in free agency. They did all of those things because they realized, Aaron Banks, the left guard, walked in free agency. They did all of those things because they knew they had to pay Brock. Well, if you cleared the decks to pay me, then give me what I believe I'm worth. Pay me in line with what all the other young quarterbacks are getting paid in this league. Guys, by the way, that have done far less than I have when it comes to playoff success. So I'm just looking at the recent extensions done, the top-level quarterbacks, even if you want to go back to 2023 when Joe Burrow signed for $55 million, all of those deals checked in between 21% and 25% of the salary cap, right? All of those contracts. So last year, Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love get brand new deals. Both of those guys, when they sign their contracts, their salary is 21.5% of the salary cap. All right, Deshaun Watson back in 2022, 22% of the salary cap, even though his deal is fully guaranteed. Kyler Murray, 22% of the salary cap. Jalen Hurts, when he signed his deal, 22.6% of the salary cap. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, the list goes on and on. Like, they're all checking in between 21% and 25% of the salary cap. So for Brock Purdy, the floor in terms of average annual value on a new contract would be $58 million. And if the 49ers aren't willing to pay him that kind of money, why should he show up for work?
Because let's just be clear on this. I'm glad you're doing it the way you're doing it, because I think that's the way it should be done universally, which is percentage of cap. Cap changes every year.
I agree with you.
Cap changes every year, but it's easy then for a team to say, no, we're giving you what your peers are getting. Now, there may be less money ultimately, because what just happened in here? When next year somebody gets a new contract and they're making 23% of the cap, it's going to be more money, but it's the same valuation of the percentage of cap. So what you're saying makes a ton of sense. The average there is 23%, which would put them with Lamar and Herbert and Dak in terms of the percentages that I see on Spot Track here. So that makes sense. But is that going to happen?
I don't think the 49ers have any choice. The only question is, what's the timeline in terms of when they get the deal worked out? Because I do think it's a very real scenario where Brock Purdy holds the line and the 49ers stand firm into the start of the preseason. And then at that point, you're talking about your team getting off to a late start and being behind the 8 ball when it comes to a competitive edge because your quarterback's not in camp. Oof. So how does that set you up for success in 2025? It doesn't. And when you consider moving on from all of those core guys that we just talked about this offseason, it has the makings of a team in flux and a squad that's scrambling to get out of the cellar in the NFC West. So, I think it's a trick box for the San Francisco 49ers. They put themselves in this position, and the only way to get out is by paying their way.
And what happens if a certain quarterback slips in the draft? And what happens if that contract is not done with Purdy? And what happens if they don't feel like they're close to that contract being done? Ooh. And they're sitting there at 11?
But that's why it didn't make sense to me when Schefter gave me the answer. And I'm not saying Schefter's wrong. He's absolutely right. Nobody is in the know when it comes to NFL stuff to Schefter, especially when it comes to the Shanahans. So my whole point is this. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, can you really allow the draft to come and go and not have an extension with Purdy in place when you have fewer alternatives to replace him?
You lose those alternatives the moment the draft ends, you're saying.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still always Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers as fallbacks, presuming that those guys don't get traded or signed anywhere. But, I mean, can you really afford to allow the draft to come and go, an opportunity to get a quarterback on the rookie wage scale? Can you really allow that to happen and give even more leverage to Brock Purdy as we continue to move through the offseason in these negotiations?
We're going to find out. Coming up. It is a massive 24 hours for one quarterback in Pittsburgh. It may not be the one you think. We'll get to that next.